He said, love is not a word that you commonly hear in business, and it's not one that we throw around or we say very often, but Howard Behar had introduced this concept to Starbucks that we need to use the word love. And as my good friend Howard Behar took the stage that night to accept the award, he reminded everyone of a couple of things about business. Welcome back to The Thermostat with Jason Barger. If you're currently on a commute, a walk, or just a micro break in your day, glad you're making time to step back, to think, and to reflect on the next steps on your journey. I've never been more convinced. The best leaders and team cultures in the world are the ones that make time to step back and calibrate their thermostat. I hope today's conversation leaves you feeling grounded and inspired. Now let's dive into today's topic to engage our minds and hearts in order to authentically lead and create compelling cultures wherever we are in the world. Hey everyone, it's Jason, and welcome back to the Thermostat Podcast. Wherever you are in the world right now, however you're coming to this podcast, I hope, and the purpose of this is always to meet you where you are. I hope that the content here engages your mind and heart and helps you navigate your way through the world in positive ways, whatever you're experiencing in your personal life, in your career, with the team and organization that you serve. I want this to be a place and a space for you to be able to take a step back, to think, to a place that's going to breathe oxygen into you, and a place that's going to be positive for you. More convinced than ever that authentic leadership and compelling cultures are needed more than ever in our world. So on our teams and our organizations, our families, the groups of people that we gather with and are count on every single day, authentic leadership and creating compelling cultures are needed more than ever. So thanks to everyone out there who obviously listens to this podcast like you, those of you that subscribe, that rate, 5 stars, of course. Thank you for those of you that actually take the time to rate, to leave a nice review. All of those things help amplify the message and spirit of this podcast even further into the world. And so I'm so grateful for those that take the time to actually help spread this so more and more people can access this kind of content and positive content in the midst of a pretty noisy and negative world. So today, I want to talk about the concept of love. Love in business. For years, we all know this, for years that at this stage in our history, in 2020, there have been so many different studies and research done, countless ones that I could pull up right now, where the research and the study and the surveys being done on employees in the world, they tell us time and time again that people want more than just a job. Oftentimes in our minds, we think people just want a job. Just, no, just give me a job. Leave me alone. Let me do my job. But the reality is, in every research and study that comes back, it continues to say over and over again that even if people think that, although clearly they don't, but even if we start to believe that or think that the reality is people don't want just a job. We know that. People want to feel valued. People want to know that they contribute, that they are a contributor to something that's greater than them. They want to be a part of a mission that's bigger than us. And also, sometimes they wouldn't maybe use this language, but as you look at the responses and the way people, respond to these kind of surveys, and really what they're calling out for is that people want to feel loved. Meaning not romantically, we don't want any lawsuits, but people want to feel loved. They want to feel cared for. They want to know that the place where they give their life to, and their so many hours of their day and of their life to, and the contributions they make, they want to feel like they are loved, appreciated, and cared for. So anybody that knows me well knows that this is something that I believe in, and that I think that we all want that, no matter what it is that you wake up and do every single day, whatever organization you serve, whatever mission that is in front of you, whatever you're passionate about in the world. I believe that we, human beings, we wake up and we want to be a part of something. We want to feel valued. We want to contribute. We want to be a part of something greater than us. So I've always believed that. And I've certainly been lucky to always be engaged in that kind of work and with teams and organizations that also want that for their people. But I've also, it's easy for us to lose sight of, or sometimes for people to say, yeah, but where does that exist in kind of bigger contexts? Well, it's been over a decade now that fortunately along my path, I was lucky to meet Howard Behar. Howard Behar, the former president of Starbucks and Starbucks International. Both he and I were speaking at a conference over a decade ago, the Greenleaf Center for Servant Leadership. And that year of that conference, Howard was the keynote. I was there as well speaking. And after his keynote, he came out of a jam-packed ballroom, people all swarming all around him, and he came out of the ballroom and he came walking out into the common area where they had a table there. And they were selling my first book, Step Back from the Baggage Claim. And there I was behind it. I was signing books, and I was talking to people that were interested in the book and learning about this idea of stepping back from the baggage claim and thinking about the way that we move throughout the world every single day. And Howard came out of this packed ballroom of just giving an amazing keynote about his time of leading Starbucks, where at the beginning of his time at Starbucks, when he joined, they had about 20 stores, and nobody really outside of Seattle knew anything about Starbucks. And yet then Howard, he and his team, over the next 22 years, took them from 20-some stores to over 15,000 stores around the globe. And, of course, Starbucks took off. And all of a sudden, as he came out of this ballroom, for whatever reason, he made his way right straight ahead to my table. And he stood there looking at this sign, Step Back from the Baggage Claim. And I'll never forget the look on his face as he stopped in his tracks and he was looking at it. And you could see it just click in. And if you know Howard, and I'm so lucky that I've become, that he's become such a great friend and mentor and person in my life now. But if you know him, then you know that he genuinely stopped and saw that, and he looked at it, and he came right up to me and he says, "Tell me more about this. This seems interesting." And the next thing you know, the conversation that we had and that we carried forward over the next 2.5 days at this conference, where Howard was so willing to listen and to share with me. And before we even knew it, by the end of the time together of us talking about these ideas and concepts of servant leadership and in the world, all of a sudden, whether he knew it or not, he and I became friends. And next thing you know, we started to do a monthly call where I kind of adopted him as my mentor, one of my mentors in my life that has become such a cherished and important person in my life. Because Howard has a connection and a deep belief in trying to be the best servant leader in the world that he can be. And it was cool to see that this wasn't just an idea or something he felt about, but inside business and how they developed teams and the thinking at Starbucks as they grew from 15 or 20 stores to 15,000 around the globe, that in the midst of this was this idea that people want to be a part of something. They want to feel valued. They want to contribute. And yes, they want to feel loved. And so in 2018, Howard Behar, that former president of Starbucks for 22 years, he was a part of that. When Starbucks exploded to global success, he was presented in 2018 with a Lifetime Achievement Award. A Lifetime Achievement Award. And at this big gala where he was being celebrated, and to receive this Lifetime Achievement Award, which most people, kind of pinch themselves. And I'm talking with Howard, he still couldn't even believe it was happening and also was kind of surprised by it. Why am I getting an award? Because he's that kind of gracious and genuine person. But yet he was being presented with this Lifetime Achievement Award. And Howard Schultz, the executive chairman of Starbucks, the other Howard, a part of what became famous as H2O, Howard, and Orrin, who ran Starbucks for all those years. Howard Schultz stood at the podium to introduce Howard, and he said about Howard Behar that he infused the word love into their business. He said, love is not a word that you commonly hear in business, And it's not one that we throw around or we say very often. But Howard Behar had introduced this concept to Starbucks that we need to use the word love. And as my good friend Howard Behar took the stage that night to accept the award, he reminded everyone of a couple of things about business. He said, we often get confused in business because we think it's about the P&L statement. We think it's about the balance sheet or the stock price. We get confused in business because we know that obviously we want to perform, we want to have outcomes. Obviously it wants to grow and continue to excel economically. But we get confused and we lose sight and we think that it's only about the P&L statement. It's only about the balance sheet or it's only about the stock price. But the best leaders, teams, and organizations realize that it's not. And even if you're somebody who's listening to this right now and you believe this, and as I said, I've been talking about this kind of stuff and believing these things for years, but even at a place like Starbucks, that it was growing to these global success in this hugely successful business, in the midst of that, the people leading it were still saying it's not only about the P&L statement, the balance sheet, or the stock price, even though we want those to continue to grow. It's about serving each other. The best leaders, teams, and organizations realize it's not about that other stuff, but it's about people. In fact, Howard's got many great books, but one of them is It's Not About the Coffee, because it's about the people. It's about loving them and wanting their best. It's about serving each other and the world, he said. That every single day, no matter what your business is, you have a chance to serve people, and those people serve others and serve the world. The only path to results is through serving others, he said, and realizing that our role as leaders is to put people in positions and help equip them and serve them so that they can be successful and that we can all together serve a mission that's greater than us. No matter your role or business, the key is to find your connection to the mission and then rallying others to make a difference towards that mission. And he talked about that being the role of leadership every single day, is making people centered on the mission and then rallying people to show up every single day and to serve. Each day within the walls of your business and outside the walls of your business, the question is, will we live the values of the company? Many companies and organizations, of course, everybody has values. Everybody has great posters on the walls, you've heard me say. But the best organizations are the ones that realize that it's not about having a poster on the wall. It's about having the posters in our people. Meaning that each day, within the walls of our business and outside the walls of our business, our people live the values of the company in order to serve each other and to serve a mission that's greater than ourselves. He asked everyone, he asked leaders, he asked companies, he asked teams to look people in the eyes every single day. Look your people in the eyes. Ask them how you can help as a leader. And then be the difference that rallies people towards that mission. At Starbucks during those years, they became obsessed with their values. They didn't have a value set prior to this, but they began to talk about, well, what is that? And they used to have these town hall meetings with any company employee could be a part of, and they used to listen and just talk about what is the culture that we want to create together. They began to provide benefits to all employees, even if you were just that barista serving the coffee. They said, no. Every single person that's a part of our ecosystem, all are going to get benefits, which was a bold and trailblazing thing to do at the time. And they wanted to create an environment where they could truly love their people. They knew they weren't perfect. They've never claimed to be perfect, and certainly in the years since, even since Howard has left Starbucks and retired and is off their board and has moved on, and of course they've had challenges, the company, as every company has, challenges over the years. The reality is they've never been perfect, but they've always been able to come back to those values and say, have we gotten off track? What is it we're aiming for? What is it we're trying to create together? And during Howard's years there, for 22 years, he said, love isn't commonly a term that's used in business, but it's the best. And the best leaders, teams, and organizations, in his opinion, in the world, strive to love their people. Love them. Not romantically, of course, but love them, care for them, help them know that where they are is where they're supposed to be, and they feel supported and cared for. It's been such a great privilege in my life to have Howard as a friend and a mentor, and to be able to learn from him and to see the way that even at a place as big as Starbucks, they've realized and they've tried to implement, not perfectly, but again, focused on how can we care for people, and to realize it's not about the coffee, but it's about the people. And that maybe the term love isn't one that we need to shy away from when we talk about our people, our teams, our organizations. So as always, I want to leave you with a few questions to ponder or things to reflect along your journey. Who on your team needs to feel loved and appreciated? Who on your team, in your organization, in your family, in the groups that you gather with and count on every single day, who on your team needs to feel loved and appreciated? In what intentional ways can you serve your customers and your teammates? In what intentional ways can you serve your customers and your teammates? Is your team focused on serving others, or just a transactional relationship, internally and externally? Remember, the word love does have a place in business. Not in the romantic way. Stay away from the lawsuits. But we can love, care for, appreciate, and serve people. Thank you for listening to today's podcast, and I hope the messages and questions stimulate positive change along your path. As always, if these messages resonate with you and add value to your life, I hope you'll help amplify them throughout the world. Please rate, comment, and share on whatever podcast or social media platform you're using. And share this podcast with the people in your life or work who should be part of these conversations. That way, this spirit does, in fact, spread. If these messages or developing leaders and culture would be helpful to your organization, or you have a question or comment about this podcast, please contact us at jasonvbarger.com. And remember, we all are ambassadors for the culture we want to create in our life and work. We have to own the vision we want to be a part of. The future of leadership is you, is me, is us. Be a thermostat.